Mr. Homeland, thank you so much for being here. You did meet with a group of centrist Senate Democrats on Friday to try to strike a deal to reopen DHS. Republican senators say the administration has added to the latest offer. What exactly is the White House offering Democrats right now on potential new policy changes for ICE and CPB to end this impasse?
I don't think it's really significant policy changes. I mean, I'm invited there just to explain operations and how we conduct business within ICE and CBP. But I truly believe this isn't really a policy issue. I mean, we have the same policies in place we had during Obama and Biden and Clinton and Bush 1 and Bush 2. So the policies really hasn't changed. It's the execution of those policies that we're talking about. And look, we're having good conversations, but you know, more conversations need to be had because we certainly can't surrender ICE's authorities and their congressionally mandated job. So we're having those discussions. It's really about policy execution more than policy.
Well, but as you know, they want it to be codified, things like agents wearing masks, the ability or the requirement to say who they are, and things of that nature. So you're saying that the White House is not open to changing any of that?
No, I'm saying a majority of it's about policy execution. If we're talking about, you know, as you see on the letter that was out the other night, we're talking about identification, you know, badge number, name, either or, because no Border Patrol has a name on their uniform. ICE doesn't have a name on uniforms. We're talking about clear identification. We're talking about, you know, access to detention and things like that. So, you know, a lot of these things, as I explained to the senators, a lot of these things are already in play. And, you know, identification has been ever since Minneapolis. And I'm trying to explain that the situation on the ground isn't the same as it was in Minneapolis. You know, we're doing target enforcement operations, and the detention standards are the same they were in the last administration, but there was a problem with access to detention standards that problem doesn't exist anymore. So a lot of the changes after Minneapolis has already been implemented, and that's what I'm there to explain to them.
I want to ask about one other thing. During his confirmation hearing, Senator Mark Wayne Mullen indicated that as Secretary of DHS, he would require ICE to use judicial warrants over administrative warrants, which is another thing the Democrats want. This is, of course, to enter homes or businesses. I know you've pushed back on that idea in recent months. Would you support a Secretary Mullen on that?
Well, I'm not going to get ahead of the Secretary. I mean, I know what he said during the hearing, and I don't think ICE is going into homes without some sort of judicial warrant. There are certain aspects of the law that I'm trying to explain to members of senators, what allows us access and not access. You know, you don't need to enter a house. You don't need a judicial warrant to enter a house if it's in hot pursuit, or if it's destruction of evidence, or there's a significant safety threat. So there's a lot of caveats to that, and that's what we're talking about in these meetings. What exactly the law says, and what are our options within that law. So you know, I won't get ahead of the Secretary. Hopefully, he'll get his vote this week.
Okay. You would be open to changing, to making it more clear that in run-of-the-mill situations, not in hot pursuit, that a judicial warrant is needed?
Again, I'm not going to get ahead of these discussions. That's a part of the negotiation, and I'll just leave it at that. Look, it's give and take, and we'll continue to have those conversations, but we'll see where it goes. We're having this conversation. I'm explaining how we do things, and we'll see where it lands.
President Trump posted on Truth Social, quote, "If the radical left Democrats don't immediately sign an agreement to let our country, in particular our airports, be free and safe again, I will move our brilliant and patriotic ICE agents to the airports where they will do security like no one has ever seen before." Now, in a subsequent post, he said that he instructed ICE agents to be ready by Monday. And now the president is saying that you, sir, are going to be in charge. How is that going to work? Are ICE agents going to move into American airports starting tomorrow, Monday?
Yes. And I'm currently working on the plan now of execution, working with the director of ICE and the administrator at TSA, the acting administrator. So we'll put together a plan today, and we'll execute tomorrow.
Okay, so there are a lot of questions here. First of all, are ICE agents even remotely trained to handle security at airports?
ICE agents receive a high level of training. And, you know, the ICE agents are assigned at many airports across the country already. They do a lot of criminal investigation on smuggling at airports. But, you know, there's got TSA agents covering exits, you know, people that enter through the exits. You know, certainly a highly trained ICE law enforcement officer can cover an exit, makes people don't go through those exits, entering the airport through the exits, and that stuff like that relieves that TSA officer to go to screening and to reduce those lines. So wherever we can provide extra security, I don't see an ICE agent looking at an X-ray machine because they're not trained in that. There are certain parts of security that TSA is doing that we can move them off those jobs and put them in the specialized jobs to help move those lines.
Okay, that was going to be my next question. So what you're saying is when you move ICE into airports, they are going to be just around the exits and the exteriors. They're not going to be helping people get through the lines and screening people's bags.
Those discussions are going on now. I'm not expert at TSA, so that's why I'm talking to the TSA administrator and the ICE director, find out where we can fit in. We'll have a plan by the end of today where we're sending what airports we're starting with and where we're sending them. But that's a discussion we're having right now. I mean, I ended the discussion to do the show, and I'll be back having those discussions when I finish. So it's a work in progress, but we will be at the airports tomorrow helping TSA move those lines along.
And I know you said it's a work in progress, but at least at the beginning, are there airports that specific airports that you're thinking about starting with? And how many ICE agents are you considering deploying to do this?
Again, that's going based on discussions we're having today. I think we need to, my opinion is that we concentrate on the airports where the longest waits are. We prioritize those. The large airports where there's a long wait, like 3 hours. I think we got to prioritize what we do like we do everything else. So again, having those discussions, continued discussions after the show with the leadership of those agencies will lead us to some decisions based on prioritization, where we deploy, how quick we deploy, how many agents we deploy. So.
Right.
Hopefully we'll have all those answers here by this afternoon, but we're working on it. And when we deploy tomorrow, we'll have a well thought out plan to execute.
With respect, if you're doing this in 24 hours, how well thought out could it possibly be?
Again, ICE has been at airports across the country for a long time. It's just expanding those things. Look, how much of a plan does it mean to guard an exit to make sure no one comes through that exit?
And
I mean, we're talking about security options, and these officers are well trained in security, and they're well trained in identification. And look, we're going to do what we can to help TSA move those people through the line.
And last question on this, because this is important, and I realize that this is clearly a plane that you're creating while it's in the air here, but this is a question that a lot of people are asking. Is it just going to be crowd control, or will ICE officers also be doing immigration enforcement while they are at the airports?
We do immigration enforcement at airports all the time. So is that going to change? It's not going to change. This is about helping the men and women at TSA. They've lost several hundred employees. The lines are really slow because of the shutdown. This is about helping TSA do their mission and get the American public through that airport as quick as they can. Well, while adhering to all the security guidelines and the protocols, we're simply there to help TSA do their job in areas that don't need their specialized expertise, such as, you know, screening through the X-ray machine. Not training that, we won't do that. But there are roles we can play to release TSA officers from the non-significant roles, such as guarding an exit, so they can get back to the scanning machines and move people quicker. And we're just simply helping our fellow officers at TSA.
Tom Homan, thanks for being here this morning. I appreciate it.